Sweet or savoury, there's something for everyone tonight as we serve up a sensational selection of sugar and spice. Let's meet some real sweeties. Sweet as a nut, it's Rose Matafeo. Oh. Sweet as pie, it's Alice Levine. Short and sweet, it's Jason Manford. You can bet your sweet ass, it's Alan Davis. Let's see if their buzzers are sweet or spicy. Rose goes. Alice goes.
Sweet dreams are made of these.
Jason goes.
Sweet Caroline.
Ba, ba, ba. Oh, I just want to carry on. And Alan goes. Oh, wow. You all did a dancey thing. I once did a show with... Is she called Mel B? I did a show with her.
It depends who you're talking about. Yeah.
Anyway, it was charming. What's sticky and well worth stealing?
A friggin' nice stick. I don't...
Wow!
But like a good stick, like the best stick you've ever seen, Sandy.
I agree that when my son, if we go for a walk, he finds the best sticks, and he will hold on to that stick to a point. My wife won't let them in the house, these sticks, so they've been outside. So he will leave it on the doorstep. And the next morning, when his stick is still there, it's like the PlayStation 5 has been delivered. It's like a box to a kitten, a stick to a kid.
Wait till you get him a toy.
I know.
Ah, there's a bloody forest out there. Help yourself, mate. It's like Toys R Us.
It's a weapon, it's a friend, it's a companion.
Exactly.
I love
Rose knows.
that.
Like a stick.
She knows.
OK.
Yeah.
I've forgotten what the question was. So, sticky and worth stealing.
Jam.
Sort of. It's kind
I'm going to say Post-its, because you don't ever buy that kind of thing, do you? You just steal that from
just
work.
from the office.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
That's the problem with the work I do. I never go to an office.
Yeah.
Stationery stealing.
Be a good idea
What's that?
for a website where you could buy some stuff, but there was a shoplifty corner.
That's such a good idea.
And if you avoided being detected by a couple of windows and you could get into the shoplifting room, you could nick a couple of things and get away with
That's
it.
such a... Let me write this down. I'm so sorry.
Because the fun of nicking something is gone at the moment, isn't
Have
it?
you
No one's
shoplifted?
nicked anything for ages.
I've never shoplifted in my entire life, though. Have you shoplifted?
Oh, God.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah.
I haven't.
As
you
a
kidding?
schoolboy, it was an absolute rite of passage.
Oh, my God.
I remember I had friends who had an aquarium and they'd go in the pet shop and just get weeds out of the fish tank.
I stole a Kinder egg when I was about 13. I felt so guilty that I actually took it back the next day and put it back on the...
Alice, have you shoplifted?
They should...
I think you know the answer to this. I'm
Alice.
such a goody two-shoes. I haven't. But
So the three women have not shoplifted. I'm just putting it out there.
Rose has committed many crimes.
I committed fraud. I've been to jail for fraud, but that's a clever one.
OK, so we are going for something sticky, but it's something you could put on pancakes.
Oh, syrup.
Maple syrup?
Maple syrup. So, over several months, from 2011 to 2012, there was a group of thieves, and they stole 3,000 tonnes of maple syrup from Canada's global syrup reserves, aren't we? Who's not glad that those exist, right?
Oh, my God.
It became known, and I love this title, the Great Maple Syrup Heist. I know.
When does it become a heist?
When it's enormously valuable. This is the most valuable heist in the whole of Canadian history. So Canada produces 80% of the world's maple syrup. 90% of that comes from Quebec alone, and they have a strategic reserve of about 160,000 or more barrels, which are worth $1,800 each. OK, it's quite a lot of money. And this is controlled by a group called the Federation of Quebec Maple Syrup Producers, the FPAQ.
Great bunch of lads.
I know,
Yeah.
such fun at parties.
They sound like a laugh.
And they keep control of the supply. And the reserve is only checked once a year. So the thieves went into the place, and what they did was they systematically removed some barrels, temporarily replaced them with empty ones, siphoned out the syrup, refilled them with water and replaced them. Perfect crime, OK? Because nobody knew, until a syrup inspector went and had a look, climbed on a stack of barrels and nearly fell because of the empty ones weren't strong enough to take his weight. And he raised the alarm, and in total 9,000 or more barrels had been emptied of maple syrup, worth $18 million.
Ring the alarm bell.
When is Guy Ritchie going to make that film?
I know.
I want to see Jason Statham doing a Canadian accent.
Yeah.
Floating in a tank of syrup.
It's thought, apart from the money, that the crime was motivated partly by bad feelings towards the FPAQ, the people in control. Yes.
And low blood sugar, probably, because have you
They
ever been
are corrupt.
hangry?
Yeah.
When I've got food mood, I just have to eat there and then.
Like most of these crimes, there came a point where they should have just stopped.
Yeah.
If we steal any more syrup, someone's going to notice. They're going to know when they climb on the barrels. Let's stop at 1,000 barrels. What are we like?
No.
Are we greedy people?
What a quote with most crimes. There's a point where you should stop.
Where does maple syrup come from?
Maple tree?
It's called the sugar maple.
Ah.
And Quebec is currently the world leader.
Isn't nature amazing? Look at
Yeah.
that. They've got... Look, they grow with a bucket on the
bucket,
side
set-
ready
They're
for you.
Milking trees.
It's like they want you to have it.
Do you not think he looks like he's in
I
a
don't know what he thinks he looks like. He thinks he's in a catalogue.
man from CNA?
I do suddenly want to buy some overalls for some reason.
Dungarees is the way forward. It is actually very interesting. I've been when they tap the sap. It usually starts running in about March because the warmer temperature makes pressure inside the tree increase, so the sap, which is basically just sugar and water, is squeezed, how can I put this nicely, out of any open orifice. And it takes 40 gallons of the sap to make 1 gallon of syrup.
Oh, my
So
God.
it's a lot. But it's not a European invention. It was made in the Americas long before the Europeans turned up, usually by women from what we call the First Nation tribes who tapped the sap and then they collected firewood and boiled the sap to make spirit.
Sounds like a Danny Dyer
Sure.
game show.
It does, yeah.
Tap the sap!
Ladies and gentlemen, let's tap the sap.
Tap the sap! Come on!
Here comes a bucket.
He doesn't know the rules of it.
In his ear. Shout tap the sap, Danny. In which direction? Any way you like. We've got you covered.
Maple tapping not limited to humans. So squirrels have been seen systematically
Stuck to trees.
What's happened?
They
Systematically.
never know their limit.
Oh, my gosh, me nuts are stuck! Sorry, Sandy, I went
No,
too
we're
far.
just trying to think where to go from sticky nuts.
The bathroom.
Yeah, they systematically bite into maple trees to allow the sap to flow. But here's the really clever thing. They don't just lap it up there and then go, yay, I got the sap to flow. They leave it and return so that once the water is evaporated, there's a higher concentration of the sugary sap.
Clever.
Thanks, squirrels.
Isn't that
Clever.
great?
Clever.
Yeah,
squirrel.
lovely.
Yeah, it's really... I thought, good on you.
Team players.
I know. Explain to me how adult licorice works.
All licorice is adult licorice because only adults like licorice.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes mums pretend to like it just so there's something in the house that nobody else is going to eat.
OK, you've never been to Scandinavia. We just all love
I love licorice.
And we are going to try some, OK? The thing that makes it adult is that it is extremely salty. The flavour comes from ammonium chloride, which the Finnish people called samjaki, OK? The Scandinavians say the stronger and saltier the better, and I absolutely agree. So you have a little bowl like this. Try it if you don't like licorice. Who likes licorice?
I like licorice.
I like licorice.
I don't know if I like salty licorice.
Which is adult licorice.
Oh, my God.
Huh? How good is that?
Boy, oh, boy.
Oh,
Actually, coming around, Sandy.
Isn't it good?
Coming around.
Alan spat it out. Isn't
My
that?
spine feels weird. What's happening? That is...
Do you like that, Jason?
I think once you get over the initial shock,
Disappointment.
yeah, it just becomes disappointing.
Just becomes steadily more depressed.
Yeah, it's all right.
There are health implications.
Oh, really? Thanks for telling us now.
I made the right call.
Too much ammonium chloride is bad for you, and so the European Union wanted to set the cap at 0.3%. But licorice is like 10 times that much, salty licorice. And there was a genuine fear that the people of Scandinavia, the Finns in particular, would leave the EU
Wow.
if they messed with their licorice.
Oh, God.
You know, a Sammy exit.
Yeah.
So an exemption was made for sweets and ice cream. It just has to say adult licorice, not licorice for children on it.
Do you have to have ID to get it?
I don't think you need to worry about children accidentally eating this. I mean...
No.
It's incredibly resistant to saliva.
Yeah.
That's a good quality in a man, I think.
Oh,
Be a good thing to put in a personal ad.
oh, my God.
Wanted, man, incredibly resistant to saliva.
Oh, God.
Able to tolerate adult licorice.
Are you not?
No other qualities necessary.
I hope this doesn't become a thing now. I don't want to start seeing
Every time you come on QR, we give you a shit sweet.
sweet and sour jelly babies.
Yeah.
I don't want to see this.
That's sort of like jerky, isn't it, really?
Oh, do you like... I like jerky. I think jerky's absolutely lovely.
But not when you're expecting a sweet.
Yeah. It's like a Jaffa cake, but it's got chicken tikka masala.
But it has been so popular for so long that it was found in Tutankhamun's tomb.
In the tomb, Sandy, in the tomb.
Yeah, let's bury it. While he's going, while the lid's open, put the licorice in. It's incredibly resistant to saliva.
Get rid of them.
Ancient Romans used it for bladder problems, kidney stones, ulcers, all sorts of things.
Oh, it's medicine. Yeah, it tastes like medicine.
Tastes a bit
yeah.
like medicine. Yeah.
But like medicine, when it's, you know, when you're a kid and medicine's actually quite nice, it's like strawberry and banana, and then about 13 they go, oh, you can have chalk now. You know what I mean? Like that, it's that age of medicine.
The English physician Nicholas Culpeper, so we're talking 17th century, recommended taking it against coughs, growths in the eye, and ulcers on the genitals.
I mean, it only tastes like it's been rubbed on someone's genitals. So.
What is the town in the UK that we link with licorice? There's one town in West Yorkshire.
Towns in West
Bassett?
Yorkshire.
Pontefract,
Of course, it's
somebody.
Pontefract.
Pontefract
Yeah.
cakes, absolutely right. So it's extraordinary that it's in Pontefract because the plant is native to southern Europe and Western Asia. Probably arrived in Pontefract in about the 16th century via Dominican monks. And by the 1920s, there were 10 licorice factories in the town.
But they're all sweet licorice. They're
the sort you
No one's
like.
coming like,
Yeah.
lads, have I got an idea for you? Imagine it was this product that we've been selling millions of, but it tastes like shit. Imagine that. Imagine.
I love it. I'm just saying to you.
Not a single convert in the house, Anne. No.
I know. Anyway, which head of state did the Spice Girls sleep with?
Well, I'm nervous to say this, but Nelson Mandela.
You think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seemed too obvious.
I also sort of think we'd have heard about that.
Do you think?
You know, like, it
Beats
feels
the
like a big
Spice Girls.
story.
Well, he
you know?
said, which is pretty shocking, that it was the best day of his life when he met the Spice Girls.
Was it?
Wow.
I met Nelson Mandela
Did you?
when I was 3. When in New Zealand, he came to speak, and all of the crowd like surged forward, and I was sitting on a barrier, and it kind of pushed me, and I was next to my brother, and so I started crying, and he came up to me and he was like, "Why are you crying? Why are you crying?" And then I was like, "My brother punched me!" to Nelson Mandela, and then he was like, "Oh, don't cry," and tried to comfort me. And then my mum was like, "Do you know who that person was?" And I was like, "No, I don't. I'm 3 years old, right?"
Rose, he has bigger fish to fry.
Exactly. So the best day wasn't that day that he met me. That's very upsetting. What were you saying, sorry?
So we are slightly misleading you.
Mel B's child has obviously just farted.
Which one's Mel B,
yeah.
Sandy?
Yeah, come on, Sandy.
Point out the Mel.
Oh, yeah, you met her, didn't you? You
Mel
met her.
B's the one wearing a crocodile.
That's right. Yeah.
Right, so we're talking China. We're talking China, the Spice Girls of ancient China. So these were the concubines who slept with the emperor. And
What a job.
calling them Spice Girls because in the Han Dynasty China, so we're talking about 202 BC to 220 AD, the emperor's concubines would live in a pepper house. So basically, you've got mud and plaster on the walls, and it's mixed with Szechuan pepper. So the spice, it's really nice. It provides a sort of warm and fragrant atmosphere. And also the plant is a symbol of fertility because it has so many seeds. And even today, they throw it sometimes as confetti at newlyweds, sort of in rural areas of China.
Szechuan pepper.
Szechuan pepper, yes. It's basically the dried berries of the prickly ash tree. Anyway, you get this sensation, right? That it's not really spiciness. It's like a tingling, numbing sensation. So we're going to try it, OK? So having gone for the licorice, what I want you to do is to take one and to bite just... No, not the whole thing, darling, you'll die.
Oh.
Yeah.
But why would you put all of them in there? Why would you risk that?
I wanted to give you a choice.
I was about to down here.
No,
What?
yes.
I was...
Oh, my
Last
God.
time we saw Jason Manford. To bite it and let it cover your tongue, may I advise you not to swallow it?
This is the worst game I've ever played since the licorice game.
Yeah. So bite it and then let it cover your tongue, and you should get a sensation which is called paresthesia. And you're right, Jason? That's...
I think I've had a reaction.
No, what it feels like at the moment... Feels like, you know, sometimes you see something on the carpet and you think, oh, it's a bit of a nut or something, it's a bit of a crumb of food.
Yeah.
And you pick it up and put it in your mouth, but if it actually, that isn't food.
No.
That's come out of the dog's arse or off
Yeah.
the kid's shoes or something.
Who let the rabbit in the house?
What do you think, Alice?
It is really citrusy.
Yeah. Is it nice?
It is
It's
actually
not
kind of-
unpleasant.
It's not unpleasant.
Almost got the tingle of something mentholy.
Yes, and it gives you just this kind of... It's almost like a tiny little
I like it.
vibration.
It reminds me of there's a cafe near me that hasn't been decorated for 60 years. It reminds me of their loo. The surface of my tongue now feels like it wants to leave my body. Is that
Yeah.
what happens?
It's really fizzy, isn't it?
It's like putting your wet tongue on a battery.
Yes.
Yeah. So they did a test to see how many vibrations is it actually causing, and what they did was they got 28 volunteers and they were kitted out with little tiny vibrating tools, and they were asked to adjust it until it matched what they could feel on their tongue. And Szechuan peppercorns make lips vibrate at 50 hertz, which is the same as a cat's purr.
Really?
Are you eating them all now?
I've had them now. Finished.
Have you eaten a lot?
Yeah.
Are you swallowing them?
Who said that?
Your insides are going to be vibrating at 50 hertz.
Yeah.
When you do learn to fly. What's going on? Oh, my God. Wow. Hey, I tell you what, when you have a couple...
Yeah.
Woo! Now we're talking! Woo-hoo!
Wow, you can see the time
You have a
now.
little line of blood coming out of one nostril.
Yeah. Are you currently experiencing the last third of 2001 Space Odyssey? You're just flying.
Wow!
Zingy and sherbety.
Wow! Yeah!
Right.
Jason is struggling now. No. Oh, by
It's
the way, in the water,
3:47
there's
p.m.
more Szechuan.
Jason has had a whole bowl of peppercorn.
Grandad?
It's 4 hours since Jason had the peppercorn.
I don't do drugs, like, but that was the nearest
To do.
I've come to it.
Yeah.
I can actually see the back of my head.
New question. What did the original Peter Piper pick?
I simply...
pepper.
Pumpkin. Oh!
Not pepper. What else?
Pumpkin.
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 Do they have pumpkin in New Zealand? Is that a thing?
They're pumpkin in New Zealand, yes, but also weirdly in New Zealand we eat pumpkin, and apparently here you guys feed them to pigs. You're from England, I assume.
Certainly.
Do you eat pumpkin?
No.
Why not?
I've got too many pigs to feed.
So, our best guess is it was a real person called, behind the tongue twister, a one-armed French horticulturalist called Pierre Poivre. And it's a really interesting story. So we're talking 18th century. He was involved in the spice trade, but he was interested in nutmeg and cinnamon and cloves and not peppers. So he started his career as a missionary in China. I don't know what happened. He was wrongfully arrested as soon as he arrived. Who knows?
Been there, buddy.
I know. So he
Rose,
taught-
you know.
I like this. He taught himself Chinese to defend himself in court. And when the mission ended, he sailed back to France, but there was a skirmish with a British ship and he lost an arm to a cannonball. You
And
know.
we've all been there.
Worst holiday ever.
Yeah. Had to rest up in Indonesia.
Wow.
And then he hatched a plan to smuggle spices because in the 18th century, it's sort of hard for us to believe, spices were the tradable commodity. Some of them were worth more than gold, and the Dutch had complete control over spice distribution. They went to extreme measures to make sure they had this monopoly. So, for example, they'd get nutmeg seeds and they'd douse them in lime before they exported them so that they wouldn't sprout, so that you couldn't grow your own. And smuggling seeds was a crime punishable by death. But he transported more than 3,000 plants into Mauritius and Seychelles and Réunion and began growing them. It's one of the reasons why we have spices that we can trade so easily today.
Because nutmeg was used, wasn't it, to preserve meat on the ship?
Yeah. I mean, spices were really important.
And I know a little bit about this because I went to the island of Banda in Indonesia, which was exchanged for what is now the island of Manhattan in a property swap.
Yeah. So the nursery rhyme that we were talking about at the very beginning, darling, that was very first published in 1813 in Peter Piper's Practical Principles of Plain and Perfect Pronunciation. And it has a tongue twister for every single letter of the alphabet. So here is the one that we think is based on this character, Pierre Poivre. But this is the S series, so we've got the rhyme for S. Who wants to try?
Do it.
Do it? Jason, go for it.
Sammy Smelly smelt a smell of small coal. Did Sammy Smelly smell a smell of small coal? If Sammy Smelly smelt a smell of small coal, where's the smell of small coal Sammy Smelly smelt? Well,
I'm having the same sort of surge of rage that I used to have when one of my siblings would get praised for doing a simple task.
Yeah. We also have... No,
all right.
it's amazing.
that I haven't been asked to do. What are you clapping that for? He's just read it.
all right. Hey, all right, Billy Big Balls, you have a go.
Yeah, go on then.
Sammy Smelly smell a smell of small coal. It's on the bloody screen.
All of it. I had to do all of
Sammy
it.
Smelly smell a smell of small coal. It's Sammy Smelly smell a smell of small coal. Where's the smell of small coal? Sammy Smelly smell.
Did do it faster.
I don't want applause. It's reading.
Well done, Alex.
No, that's terribly impressive, darling. Well
my
done.
God.
Do you know what small coal is?
No, and care not.
Anybody? Extra
I
point?
imagine it's tiny coal.
It is.
For a tiny fire in a tiny house.
It's what they used to call slack. It's coal about the size of hazelnuts. It's to start the fire. But I'm terribly impressed with your articulation. Peter Pepper nicked a nugget of nibbly nutmeg. What makes my ice cream taste...
Some of those words began with the same letter. There's 40 years in the business. 40 years to achieve this.
That's craft. That's stagecraft right there. That is
That
stagecraft.
took my breath away.
Extraordinary. The same
Yeah.
letter at the
I
beginning
know.
of the word.
Thank you, darling. It is 40 years. And with that, we stumble into the sweet and sour swamp of general ignorance. Fingers on buzzers, please. Where does the UK get most of its sugar from? Ooh. Yes.
Morrison's?
Morrison's.
Good answer.
It's a very good answer, yeah. Anybody want to name any other places? No?
What's a country?
No.
Okay. What is a country?
Just generally as a
comes from a country? Does it come from a country?
A country other than the UK?
Yes.
No.
What?
Yes. So,
I thought it was foolproof.
No, you went wide and were wrong. No, over 50% is supplied by the British beet sugar industry. And the rest is from the EU. And then there is a bit of cane sugar imported, but the majority is grown in the UK. On the topic of Britain and sugar, do you think we're eating more or less than we used to?
I think we're probably eating less.
Yeah, it sort of depends on what you say, what we were used to. So there was a significant increase in sugar intake starting around the 1950s, and it reached 47.3 kilos per capita in 1961, but it has been declining. Today it's about 35.2 kilos of sugar per person. Most British sugar is homegrown. What did William Wrigley Jr. start a company for?
Is chewing gum?
I was totally going to say that. I'm so glad.
Alan.
Chewing gum was a kind of accidental byproduct or something, wasn't it, that they were trying to make?
Well, chewing gum has been around for thousands of years because people chewed on birch sap and all kinds of bits. He actually started a company selling soap in 1891, but he believed, he had a philosophy, everybody likes something extra for nothing. So he started offering baking powder as a promotional item, and that was such a success, he just went straight to baking powder. And then chewing gum became his freebie. And soon, the chewing gum was more popular than anything else. And by 1892, he was just selling chewing gum, and these favourites, Juicy Fruit and Spearmint there, 1893, they had become the absolute favourites that they, I think, still are.
That's incredible that the branding is pretty much
Hasn't
the same.
really changed, has it? Not really. By 1909, Wrigley Spearmint was the best-selling gum in the US, and he did this brilliant thing. He collected all the addresses from American phone books and sent a packet to every single home, and then everybody knew about Wrigley's, and the rest is history. But to talk about people chewing gum forever, in 2019, scientists at the University of Copenhagen they managed, this is astonishing, They managed to sequence a complete genome of a human being based on the saliva from a discarded piece of chewing gum, which was 5,000 years old. Wow. It came from the island of Lolland. Lolland is just south of Copenhagen. And so they named this girl who had eaten this piece of chewing gum, Lola. They called her after Lolland. And they deduced from this one piece of gum that she was lactose intolerant, she suffered from gum disease, she had blue eyes, dark skin, dark hair, and had recently eaten a meal of duck with hazelnuts from that one piece of gum.
Wow.
Do you not think that's a...
And she wasn't brought up right if she stuck that under a bus seat.
Was not right.
That's amazing.
But I just think that's incredible.
That's so cool.
Absolutely
That's
incredible.
phenomenal, wow.
It's very cool. Anyway, this is an artist's impression of what we know about her. Can you name any South American countries due south of Mexico?
Brazil? It's going to be none of them, is it? Argentina.
What is it? There aren't any?
Chile. I could do this all day.
What do you reckon, Alan?
Well, it feels like there can't be any then.
There aren't. The
OK.
whole...
Must be twisted around.
Yeah, so when you look at the map, the whole of the South American mainland is east of Mexico. Indeed, 99% of it is east of Florida. The only exception is Easter Island, which does politically belong to Chile. So you could have said Chile and we wouldn't have...
Did actually say
Did you
Chile.
say Chile?
Yeah, so scrub that.
Yeah.
I was right.
Sorry. One way to remember that South America sticks out like that is to sort of imagine it on its side and then the Americas look uncannily like a duck. If we can swivel that around like
Oh, wow.
That's very cool, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it helps that you've coloured it in.
Yeah, I think that is true.
Yeah, a lot of things can look like a duck when you colour them.
Exactly. You may think it's quackers, but all of South America is east of Mexico. OK, imagine you work for British intelligence. Who can you tell?
Well, anybody, but then you have to kill them. What?
Wow.
Are you in my head now?
No, it's not the answer. Anybody else?
Your mum?
You could tell your mum. Yes, you could tell your mum. It's the people that you feel it's essential for you to tell in order for you to be able to carry on with
So
your
you
life.
just start seeing a guy, like, for 2 months and you're like, I just want to tell her.
Yes,
I
and then you get assigned an agent handler to discuss the pros and cons of making an informed decision as to whether or not you should tell.
Really?
Yeah, so they'll check it out. The general advice is to tell close family members or friends.
OK.
There was an MI6 employee who was invited by the BBC to be interviewed, and he told them that the interviewer was the 6th person he had told. There's a marvellous story about Rupert Murdoch. So he was furious. He was told that the former News of the World editor, Rebecca Brooks, couldn't take a call because she'd gone to the furniture store, which is called MFI. And apparently her PA had misheard her and she'd gone to an MI5 meeting. I think if you work for MFI, you shouldn't tell anybody. Speaking of concealing your intelligence, it must be time for the scores. In last place, as useful as a chocolate teapot with -28, it's Alice! Scoring some brownie points in third with -24, it's Alan! Super sugar daddy in second with -20, it's Jason!
I'll take that. Second will do me.
And one smart cookie in first place with -19, it's Rose!
How that happened?
That's all from us tonight. My thanks to Alice, Jason, Rose and Alan. I leave you with this savoury sign-off. If it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, talks like a duck, probably needs a little bit more time in the oven. Good night.